group of seniors that are getting recognized on Saturday. What do you want to be known about them, especially those couple guys that came with you from Minnesota State that you've now seen for 4 years instead of the other guys just being 3, or it's one with one? I know.
Yeah, if you look at the two you're talking about with, they're Fitzy and Tass are guys that we've been with, Todd and I at least, through a lot of peaks and valleys. And they've come back their senior year. They could have had opportunities to go elsewhere. Didn't. Stuck to the script, had real good summers, and Tass, as of late, starting to contribute more on the offensive side, which those offensive guys need a little bit of candy to feel good about it, and he's moving in a good direction. And then Fitzgerald, moving him back to the wall for the majority of the year and leading us in goals, is a guy that's, you want to have an idea that when guys go through this journey, at the end of the day, they're prepared for what's in front of them. And those two young men have done a really good job at representing themselves, their families, and the University of Wisconsin in their time that's been here. There's a couple others that we've talked about previously. I think Ben Dexheimer, from where he was 3 years ago to where he's at today, as a young man, representing our program as a leader, representing his family and how his game has grown. We need to lean on him through this time, but that's something that he wants. And it's something that he wanted this summer, was to be a part of that leadership group, and I think he earned that. And hopefully he can finish his career here on a high.
Going back to Fitzgerald and Simon, can you just take us back when you came to this program? Just can you speak to the value of having some of those guys that were with you? How did they help that transition? And just over 3 years, not just the first year, but over the 3 years, how have they, added value to, this job you've done here?
Helping us connect with some of the players that were already here, because it's always the meeting after the meeting. And so I go in and talk, and those guys are getting their shirts pulled saying, hey, what's this about? What's this going to be like? I'll use a guy like David Cillier that helped that transition also. But these guys have been, they've been guys I've leaned on, or we've leaned on, to deliver messages early in the process. And then at the end of the day, they just became part of the rest of the group. And again, they've had some peaks and valleys throughout their time here, but they've stuck with it. They're both prepared not only on the hockey side, but the life side of what's going to go in front of them.
Mike, going back to Ben, when you and I talked like 4 or 5 weeks ago, you spoke glowingly of his leadership. You guys have experienced some turbulence since then, which is when you really need your leaders. How has he been this last month or so, kind of helping guide you through this?
He's been a guy that's been comfortable being at the front of the bus, because there's a lot of times when it gets heavy, and the lights go on. Doesn't seem to be as crowded as it is when things are going well. He's been the guy that's been okay delivering messages, whether they've been on the positive side, the negative side, or somewhere in between. And I think I always look at actions, not just words. He's shouldered a majority of the minutes on our blue line. Our power play has continued to be productive, which he's the quarterback of that power play, and has been willing to stand up and carry the mail when we're not in that room, and it is the meeting after the meeting. And he doesn't shy away. It's he's either coming to me, I'm coming to him. I do feel it's a partnership, and the only way that happens is if you have a guy on the other side from the coaching standpoint that you feel you can trust. And he's earned a little bit of my blind trust just because of the actions that he's had from the beginning of the summer to where we're at right now.
Do you have any update on Hauser, or what the outlook is there for the rest of the way here for him?
This weekend, I think, is definitely questionable. He's going through upper body injury that he'll continue to progress. And this showed its head a little bit earlier when we were in Michigan. Back when he ended up getting bumped, and then later on that game made a post-to-post save. I think it was on Michael Hayes on the power play, and was dinged up a little bit, was able to get that back to where it needed to be cleared for the following weekend. And this one's moving a little slower. But everything that we've got back from the docs is that, structurally he's good. And so now it's going to be range of motion, and can he get back to where he needs to get back to that we can rely upon him. So right now it's day to day. As a coach and as a player, you want it to go faster than day to day, but right now it's not. And so we'll be in more of a management stage with him throughout the rest of this week.
I guess I'm wondering just these last two series, where do you think the growth has gone, or how things have developed that maybe get you ready for a team like Michigan? Where have you seen? Where do you feel better about this group? Is what I'm getting at.
Well, first of all, we've solidified, knock on wood, that the guys that we have available on our roster are going to be available. With Hensler and Schultz, that's what we know, that's not going to be an option. So the guys that we've got, and I'm talking, whether it's Morrissey, Zelenoff, as they continue to stack weekends back from being injured, there's some consistency there. So we're going to have to rely upon that. Saturday was a night where our offense kind of left us. I thought we got away from possessing a puck and making plays. And when you're playing a team like Michigan, who that's their staple, you better be able to make a play and possess it and hold on to it, because if you don't, they have it, and now you're defending. So I do think there's some positivity of us having some consistency with the group that we're going to have up front. Now we've got to go back to breaking pucks out and coming out of our zone with possession so that we can have that going into their zone.
This question is kind of about Eli, but about bigger things too. But how much difference do you think there is for a goalie knowing you have a lead up to being in a spot, rather than having to go in cold on Friday and then start Saturday? Just having some days of knowing what's coming for you, how much of a difference can that be for someone in his position if it gets to that point? I know that's not necessarily for sure yet, but it's got to be in his head thinking, I've got a pretty good chance that I'm going to be the one starting against Michigan on Friday.
If you get to the coaching world and you start talking about goaltenders, my guess is there's probably a few books that have been written out there that they're a little different. For me, you talk about all these athletes, what they want is they want an opportunity. Okay? And then you put it back in their court. You try and do everything you can to support and help them be prepared for that. These guys have been in different spots prior to being here. For Eli, he was at MSU and was playing behind Tracy. Prior to that, he was playing in the BC League, where he led his team to some success in the playoffs. These guys just want to play. And so I'm hoping it puts him in a spot that if he looks at it and says, hey, I'm playing on Friday, or it looks like I'm playing on Friday, that he's building his book of business on a week. Consistency is really important, just because I think you fall back on what your habits are when you start to get pushed. And at times we're going to be pushed this weekend. And so, does it make him feel more comfortable? I hope so. But at the end of the day, when you post that lineup and you've got a starter, you do tell the guy who's backing up, you're backing up, and not take the night off. You need to be prepared for when that opportunity is presented to you. And so, maybe he feels a little more comfortable by not seeing somebody competing against him day in and day out right now. But at the end of the day, you've got to be prepared. And the thing that I've liked about that group is they're guys that take care of their own business. I don't see outside noise getting to either one of those. They're pretty calm and not unbelievably boisterous, which has been great from the demeanor piece. But at the end of the day, we've got to stop a puck.
What do you remember seeing different from your group of five in front of the goalie? Difference between the first game against Michigan and the second game against Michigan, and how much of a factor do you think that's going to have to be versus a team that can get up the ice fast and transition quickly and be very dangerous in doing that?
There's two things that I think they bring to the table that are hard to deal with, and it's their transition offense. And so I'm going to take that group of five that you said in front of our net, and I'm going to move it all the way to the offensive end. If you're not bumping and rubbing paint with that group and they get off and get running, they're hard to defend. And so really it starts in the offensive end and making sure that if they do have the puck and we're forechecking or through the neutral zone, you're not just allowing them to run free. And then when we do get back into our end from the guts out, a little bit of a bugaboo here over the last month has been the connectivity between our centers and our two defensemen. And at times getting too excited to go help. We've got to get back to our structure, and I think we've done a better job of that over the last 2 weeks. The second part is you're going to have to defend, and you're going to have to do it legally, because if you put them on the power play, they can zip it around. And so you've got to be hard and heavy with having a responsibility that you're getting back to the house and protecting it and doing it without going to the box. And again, that flip the coin, it helps us in transition where we're coming out of our zone with the puck. So talking X's and O's, but at the end of the day, we've got to defend against a team that's very good offensively, and then we've got to possess it when we have it so they're not on offense as often.
Coach, no 5-on-5 goals on Saturday. You mentioned just possessing the puck. Is there anything else you need to see offensively that will allow you guys to create more opportunities on offense?
Possession can come in different forms, whether it's coming out of our zone and sharing it and moving it from point A to point B, or once you get into the offensive zone, holding on to it and making the other team defend. And we lost a little bit of that way, I thought, on Saturday, where once we started to get defended, we just said, okay, we're going to put it on the back wall. Well, now you've got to go pull it off the back wall. So the possession piece has to come from our end, neutral zone, into their end. But then once you have it, if you don't have an option, own it. Stay over it and try and break that defender down. And it's the first time in a while that we've been as challenged as we were on Saturday offensively, 5-on-5. And so we've got to just get back to what our identity is when we have the puck.
Mike, you've talked about, the crowds you guys have been getting these last few games. And I don't know what the ticket situation is this week, but I assume it'll be another pretty good crowd. I guess I'm wondering what's, especially when it gets past 10,000 fans and things like, and it gets when the crowds get that large, what do you think the impact of that is? With your guys, can you speak to that some?
Yeah, we've got to utilize it. They're coming here to be entertained. Chasing a game is not real entertaining if you're the home crowd. So for us, getting off to good starts, trying to get them involved because we're doing what we need to be doing on both ends of the rink. The one thing that I've really appreciated from day one coming here, and again, it's one where they appreciate if you go out and give what you have. Obviously, I'm no different than any other fan out there. When I go and watch my team, I want my team to win every single game. And I think sometimes that can get a little bit unrealistic, but the idea of going out and giving it and playing for each other and representing the university in a way that regardless of the outcome, there can be a taste in the mouth that isn't sour. And so from our standpoint, they're coming in, they're cutting the checks, they're paying the ticket, we want to do what we're supposed to do in those opportunities. And it's our last 2 home games of our regular season, and we're playing for our playoff life. We're playing for the NPI. At the end of the day, we're playing for Friday. And so I think the crowds make a big difference here when we go out and do our job and allow them to enjoy and support us in a way that can help us be successful.
Anything else? Thanks, Mike.
Thanks.